We're in over here in Krach Kaf Aleph, first Sicha. The parsha is called Truma. Okay, it says many times. Al Shemot parsha b'Torah. Amnam b'Pashtus nikreat kol parsha al Shemot Chala. We talk about the names of the parsha. Like, how do the parshas get different names? Okay, so the simple understanding is that the name of the parsha is because the parsha begins with that word in it. Right? Okay. So since we call the parsha is actually a minhag of the Jewish people, and the minhag is Torah, and all the things in Torah are very meduyak, therefore the name of the parsha expresses the special things inside of the parsha. Okay. Yes? Okay. The Baal Shem Tov said, in relation to the things of the world in general, Sheshmo asher yikra'u lo b'lashon kodesh hu chiyuto shel davar. The name that you call something in lashon kodesh is the life force of that thing, and it hints on what that thing is. So therefore, the name of a parsha is not just a siman. So the parsha Truma, it says, Im ne'amar sheshma shel kol parsha rak al Shem atchala. If you're saying the whole parsha is just on how it starts, rak bishum sheyesh tzorach b'shem shoneh lekol parsha, because maybe you need a different name for each parsha. I afshar lerov likvot shem parsha lefi amila rishona mamash. You cannot, in the majority of parshas, call it the first name of the parsha, the first word that comes up in the parsha. Because many parshas start with the word Elet, Toldot, Vayomer Hashem. You'll have a lot of parshas called Vayomer Hashem. Vayomer Hashem 1, Vayomer Hashem 2. Okay, you can't do that.
Why not?
It's sketch. ולכן הכרחי לבחור מילה הכתובה בסמוך לתחילת הפרשה. So you have to find a word next to the beginning of the parsha that'll distinguish it from another parsha. What? Yeah. We should have not called the parsha Truma. Rather, we should have called it Vaikru. They shall take. Haktuva lifnei ken asumucha yoter tchit the parsha. That's at the beginning of the parsha. Parsha Vaikru. Why have Parsha Vayalech? Parsha.
Maybe the Karaites have a version of that.
Maybe they do. It's Parsha Vaikru. Okay. It's hard to say it. It's a little bit of a hard word. Yeah. Or Shabbat with a C. CH. French. Yeah.
They're wrong in everything.
Yeah. Shabbat. Yeah, okay, so Mikan Muvan Shekir the Pasha B'Shem Truma Enorak Delis Semana. It's not only to make a sign for what it is and to distinguish it from another Parsha. It's more than that. This name shows the context of the Parsha. And it separates it from another Parsha, okay? יש להבין, בנוסף לכך שהמילה תרומה איננה מבאאת לכאורה את תוכנה הפרשה כולה, and seemingly, in addition to this, the word truma does not come to express seemingly the whole parsha, as we will explain. But furthermore, the inyan of a truma is not a chiddush of this parsha. Why? Because we have a number of types of truma, as the sages say. Esther Trumoten, okay, it says there's a brisa. It says there's 10 types of trumas. And in Parshatenu, it only goes with one type of truma. The truma of Melechet HaMishkan. Okay? Even according to what the sages say, only Gimel trumas are said over here in our Parsha. And a regular truma means a truma you give to a kohen. And if that's the case, how can we say that the word truma brings the special tochen of this parsha itself? Because the concept of truma we learn from another parsha in the Torah that's more at length in what we learn here in the truma of the Mishkan. Okay, so some good questions here. Okay. What do you say? Or call it Vaiku. Okay, now, furthermore, there's a special aspect of the parsha in simplicity, is the commandment on the Melechet Asiyat V'Binyan HaMishkan. It's the work of making and building the Mishkan. That's this week's parsha. So how does the word truma come and express that we must make and build the Mishkan? It seems like it doesn't. It shows that the Jews are willing to separate in a goodwill to build the Mishkan for the needs of the Mishkan, not the actual building of the Mishkan. How can we say that the actual making of the Mishkan comes from the word truma? Furthermore, to make it more difficult, the parsha should have opened up with Asuli Migdash, which is the foundation of all of the commandments of the parsha. Yeah, it's just Parshat Ve'asu.
I have a question. No, but actually Migdash.
Yeah. Parshat Migdash. Yeah.
Wasn't it originally that they did finish the Torah every 3 years?
Yeah.
So then what were the names of the parsha then?
Why don't you change it?
It's another discussion. It's good. It's another discussion. They wanted you to stay in shul longer on Shabbos. I know, you're already at Mincha on Shabbos, so you're reading next month.
There would be more parshes than the first 3 years. You have to read it every week, or you read it.
They read less, yeah, it would be more parshes.
Unless you read the first year.
Right, but I guess the name of the parshes came about when they did it, the whole thing in 1 year, but then the name of the parshes were saying that it's not only just a technical thing, it's not only a science, not only way to distinguish from another, there's something else going on in the way the parsha is divided. Now, this parsha is called Truma. It seems like it doesn't make sense because it should have been Parshat Migdash, Parshat Veichu, Parshat Va'asu, right? What's going on? Why is
This is
Truma?
the only one that's different than all the other parshas?
Well, it's the only Parshat Truma. What do you mean, no one different?
I'm saying the system of naming parshas.
No. We're just taking the main system and seeing what's going on here, and we're just analyzing the situation. Okay, Veichuli Truma Asher Hu K'dei La'afsher Et Kiyum Tzibor. It should just inside of the building of the Vasuli Migdash, included in that is taking the Truma, in which it gives you the ability to build the Migdash. Im kach, tzrich haya lichtov v'tchila v'deber Vasuli Migdash, rak achad mechen tzrichim hayu la'ofia tzivrim ma'odot ofen habitzu b'fol. At the beginning, you should have said, you should make me a Migdash, and then within that includes everything else, and you would write all the other details afterwards. Vayichuli Truma, Nidvat the Mishkan, and then after that, how do you build the Mishkan? Mikachsha Torah, but the Torah didn't do that. It brought the commandment of Vayichuli Truma, take for me a Truma, before Vasuli Migdash. And we understand seemingly the opposite from that the word Truma comes and expresses the content of the Mishkan, Yoter, more than Asuli Migdash. Okay. Furthermore, Inyan Mishkan Hu, the concept of the Mishkan is Lechora, the opposite of what the Inyan of Truma is. The whole tachlis of the Mishkan is like the name of it, V'shechanti b'tocham, I shall dwell amongst them. Not the making of the Mishkan, Vasuli Migdash, Ella, rather the drawing down of the Shechina inside of the Mishkan. V'chel od ein mitkayem inyan shel shechanti, and all as we didn't fulfill the aspect of Hashem dwelling, lemarod shehabinyan kvar mushlam kula, being that the binyan is already fully built. Adayin ein ze mishkan be'emet, it's not a mishkan be'emet until the actual Shechina comes down. the dwelling of the Shekhinah in the Mishkan can be done only through the Ratzon and the Koach of Hashem, which is Hakol Yachol, as the words of Shlomo HaMelech said. Hine ha-shamayim b'shmei ha-shamayim lo yikolkucha af ki bayit hazeh. It says the heavens cannot hold you, only this house could. And this is the wonder on that the Shekhinah that is unlimited, because even the heavens cannot hold the Shekhinah, is connected and it's able to dwell in this house. And over here it expresses that this concept is only because Hashem has a ability that's beyond any limitations. And it doesn't hold back a person's powers down here. But the word truma comes to emphasize the opposite. It comes to emphasize the ability and action of a person, and not the dwelling of the godliness that comes from above. Furthermore, the word truma and not migdash in nirmaz afilu ketzad hofcho nidvat mishkan liot shel Kodesh Baruch Hu. The word truma doesn't come in hint even how we could transform the donations of the Mishkan to be of Hashem. Ella remuzah kan rak hahefresh mitzad adam. Over here, it actually tells you the difference by man himself. Okay. In order to understand this, we could first preface the question in this concept. Madua misaperet Torah beharchava rabba kol kach al trumat hamishkan. Why does the Torah talk about in such a great way about the trumat hamishkan, the actual making the beams of the mishkan, the yeriot, it means the curtains. As the sages ask a question in the Gemara, it says, "My dehava hava." Whatever happened, happens. What does that mean? HaTorah be'atzma omeret shamishkan hu arai. The Torah itself says the Mishkan is only temporary. As it says, Veyeh mithalech be'ohel uve'mishkan. We were going in the ohel and the Mishkan. Zeu tzivui rak lefi sha'ah is only a temporary command, like it says, Ki lo be'itam batem ad ata, you didn't come until now. Hatzivu l'doratu binyan hamigdash b'Yerushalayim. The commandment for generations is the building of the Migdash in Yerushalayim, which is the Beit Olamim. Im kach l'shema chashuvim pratei Mishkan liYisrael l'dorat. So why does the Torah come and tell me all the details of the Mishkan that we're learning out for generations? B'chol hatkufot u'b'kol mekamot, in all times, in all places, even after the Mishkan was hidden. And the Makomot Nivne Beit HaMikdash, and in which we will build the Beit HaMikdash in its place. Achasipur v'adinim shel binyan batei mikdashot, but the stories and the laws of the building of the Beit HaMikdash, lamrot shegam hem charvu, even though that they also were destroyed, tzrichim Yisrael ladat b'kesher, we must know this in order to connect it to the Mikdash that will come, because the main part of the building of the Beit HaMikdash of the future time is founded on how we build the Beit Rishon and Sheni. But why do we have to know also all the details of the Mishkan, how to make it, which is this going on in this week's parsha? Furthermore, in relation to the Beit HaMikdash, Hakriya ve'limut shel pratei binyan habayit eina me'avim rak hachana lebinyan la'atid. In relation to the Beit HaMikdash, the reading and the learning of the details of the building, they only are a preparation to the future building, because it says Keshibene b'mara b'menu yesh lishmor v'la'asot haftavnitahu. We must keep the same plans as the Rambam says. El yoter mikach, but furthermore, al yedei halimud va'isuk b'tzurat habayit, through the learning and the dealing with the formation of the house. Harei kvi she'amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, as Hashem says, Ani ma'aleh alem ki ilohem oskim binyan habayit. Okay, if we're learning the halachas of the Beit HaMikdash, it's as if we're building the building of the Beis Hamikdash, as the sages hold. Al yedei kach mavtichim shelo yeh binyan beiti batel. Through that, we're promising that the house will not be nullified. B'ma dvarim amurim. What are we talking about when the reading and the learning is about the Beis Hamikdash? Because that is a mitzvah for generations. Im ki b'fal yivshal livnot ka'et. Even though you cannot build it right now. But the Mishkan, Hare Hayatzivu Rak L'Doro, was only a commandment for that generation, and we see we have a whole parsha that's dealing with the Mishkan, and we're calling it Truma, in relation to all the other questions we have above. Doesn't make sense what's happening. It's a good question.
Like the focus is not on the Truma, you're saying?
Well, first of all, the whole parsha is like all about all things of the Mishkan, and we don't necessarily have to know it for generations. And why are we focusing on Truma? If Truma is like the man-made part of it that allows it to happen, but it's not the actual thing itself.
Right.
So that's the two summary of the questions, okay? Now we're going to learn that the building of the Mishkan is actually part of the building of the Mikdash. That's why it's important. We're going to see why now, okay? What is it?
Material, some of it is different.
Even though they're not destroyed.
Even though it's only temporary, etc., etc. Now, seemingly we could have answered, as we already explained at length, in the words of the Rambam, that when it says "Vasuli Migdash v'shachanti b'tocham," Amnam ne'amar b'kesher l'binet Mishkan. We're talking about the Mishkan in that case. But this is a generational commandment to build a house of Hashem. Tzivui al kol batei hamikdashot. It's a commandment on all the house, the Beis Hamikdashot. Kollel hamikdash atid, including the one that's going to come in the future. Hatzivui al kol batei hamikdashot lomdim hatzivui al bnei hamishkan. So therefore, we learn from there that the building of all the Beis Hamikdashot, which means 1, 2, and 3, is all learned from the building of the Mishkan. Well, it's going to be part from us, part from it. There's like a discussion, but part of it is from us too.
Yeah. Like the physical is going to bring the spiritual?
Yeah, it's like different things. There's different. I think there's different opinions how it works, but there's going to be a part in both ways. It's not so. Yeah, it's going to be fast, yeah. Od zot amna. Yeah, it's true. Tzurat u'pratei midot ha'orech v'arochev shel Beit HaMikdash hayu shonim ha'mishkan. Okay, the sizes are different, obviously. Mishkan and Mikdash, different sizes. But the main things that are in it were similar to the Mishkan, as the Rambam says. So to we learn about the commandment of the Truma and the Nedava of the Mishkan in relation to the Beis Hamikdash. Everyone is obligated to build and to help with themselves, with their money, men and women. So therefore from this we learn that the learning about the Mishkan is important and it helps to build the Beis Hamikdash properly. According to this we could say, in Pnimius Inyanim, that the Avoda, the Bepol, it was like that. Shetchila banu at the Mishkan. First they built the Mishkan, Lefi Sha'ah, that was temporary. Kasher adayin lo batam ad ata. And afterwards, we're going to build the Beit Ledore Dorot for generations. And this came out as a result. This is the order and the way of fulfilling of the mitzvah from the light to the heavy. At the beginning, the Mishkan, which is the Ohel, which is temporary. Wasn't in a set place. And afterwards, you could do the set place, which is the Beit Olamim Be'Yushalayim. From this, it's understood in relation to the learning and the calling of, we call it Tzurat HaBayit, in order that we have a full completion, that we're dealing with the building of the Beis Hamikdash. It's not good enough to learn about the Bayit itself, but you have to also learn about the Tzura of the Mishkan, even though some details are not in the Migdash. And afterwards, you could have a shleimus of ani ma'aleh aleim ki'leim oskim bebinyan habayit. Hashem makes it as if we're dealing with the building of the bayit through dealing with the mitzvah of the bayit. Okay, so basically what the first answer might be, until we're about to say that it's not good enough, is that it's just part of the process, just like you do the Mishkan first, temporary, the later one, and then you do the Migdash. You do the practice first, then you do the real thing, right? So too, when you're learning how to do the Migdash, so we'll learn first how Hashem did it temporarily. We'll get the basics. Then from there, we're gonna go to the harder one.
The first prototype.
First, you write a Megillah, and then you write a Sefer Torah, right? Right, Yehuda? Yeah. Okay. So now, it's not enough because the Torah is eternal. So. וכשם שבפועל הייתה תקופה מצב שבהם היה המשכן קיים בפני עצמו. This, like in actuality, there was a period of time and a situation that the Mishkan would stand by itself. Al Yudei Biniyat HaMishkan Kaimu Et HaMitzvah. Through building the Mishkan, they fulfilled the mitzvah of Asuli Migdash. Therefore, there's an aspect of eternity in the Mishkan itself. There's a spiritual thing about the building of the Mishkan by itself. Okay, what is it? We're going to see now. Okay. So there's a chiddush in the Mishkan that we're going to explain now. So the explanation is, לגבי זמן השראת השכינה למטה, מוצאים במדרשים שתי דעות. And how the time and when the Shechina dwelled down here, there's two opinions in the Midrashim. There's one saying of the sages, it says, Echad she'ota Shechina lemata batan Torah. One Chazal say that the Shechina dwelled down here when we got the Torah, as it says that then Batel Hagzera Rishona, the original Gzera was nullified, and it said the Tachtonim went to the Elyonim and the Olim Tachtonim. And it says Ani Matchil, Hashem will start. It says Vayired Hashem al Har Sinai, and it says Vel Moshe Allah El Hashem. So Hashem went down, then Moshe went up. Okay, I think it's Sukkah. Okay, and another place the sages say, Ematay Sharta Shechina Ba'aretz. When did the Shechina dwell on the earth? The day that the Mishkan was built. So the fact that there's two places where it says how the Shechina came down, it must be there's two types of avoda that bring the Shechina down in different ways. We will explain now what's happening there. Okay, Matan Torah was one thing, but it does say that like Moshe had to go up and Hashem went down. Okay, now it's understood that there's no real machlokes here. That the Hashrat of the Shechina Matan Torah was because Hashem said, I'm going to start, and he went down to Har Sinai. So since this was from above, therefore, that even though at the time being, when Hashem went down on the mountain, anyone who touches the mountain will die, which means that there's actual Kedusha in the physical mountain of Sinai. Ach bimshoch hayovel shezeu siman siluk shchina hare hema yalu bahar Sinai notar kemikodem chol. So since the continuation of the Yovel, which this is a sign that the Shechina went away, therefore the mountain went back to its original state, and now it's a mountain of chol. Okay. Even though Moshe Meir went there and he said he felt big stuff going on there. Well, it's probably some remaining things, but the mountain itself is not holy anymore. But okay, now in the Mishkan it says Vasuli Migdash, that through the doing of the Jewish people, like the Torah emphasizes the details of the Mishkan and the Kelim, it says Vasu, you shall do. In the Mishkan it says Taaseh, Okay, so it says we're doing it. The psukim in the Torah emphasize our part in doing the Mishkan. Since the dwelling of the Shekhinah was a result of our avoda. So therefore the Kedusha went inside of the physical aspects of the Mishkan. And the Mishkan and its parts became holy.
Almost like the answer is in this line.
Right. So now, according to Chassidus, the Midrash, you can explain it the following. When the Shekhinah came down in Matan Torah, it was from above. It says, I will start. And since the tachlis of the higher things go to the lower realms, is that the lower realms go to the higher realms, that the world should turn into a dwelling place for Hashem. So it says, Harei Lamaila in koch chaser poel. There's no action, no power is lacking in action. Lachen na'asu hatachtonim dir litbarach. Therefore, when the higher things came down, it automatically made the lower things a dwelling place for Hashem. Therefore, we find that the Shakol Shal Asar Dibrot, the voice of the Ten Commandments, went to all the four places of the world, from the heavens, from the earth, that the world, it says about it, Za'aket inyan Anochi L'Shem. It screamed out Anochi Hashem Elokecha. But the tachlis of the shleimus is that the tachtonim will transform to a dira for Hashem. Lo rak al yedei poel mitzvoteh mitzad kocho yitbarach. Not only as an action, as a result of Hashem's abilities, because that is not with your own voice, so to speak, your own action down here, but rather it has to be an action from the person himself, that the person should do something, should make a dwelling place for Hashem in the world through his avoda. And this is the chiddush of the Mishkan, the Matan Torah, in relation to what happened in Matan Torah. But the concept of Shachanti B'tocham, where it says that I dwelt amongst them, Heviu Yisrael al yedei avodatam, the Jews did through their avoda, through making the Mikdash. So from here, we can understand why the Torah prefaces the Indian of Vichuli Truma, because the Indian is that the dwelling place of the Shekhinah in the Mishkan comes through our avoda, and that gets expressed in the Truma, as we will explain. Okay? Yeah, any questions? Let's continue. So basically, Truma means the avoda of a tachton, and the avoda of tachton is the main thing. Therefore, the Torah talks about this whole parsha to express that aspect. That only when we do the avoda, we actually make God dwell in the world in a better way, so to speak, than if he just came from by himself. Now, but that's expressed in the word truma. We're going to explain that aspect now. Okay, now, the word truma is two explanations. Rashi says, explanation number one means hafrasha, means separating. And the second one, he explains, means harama, as brought down in the Zohar.
Lift up?
Yeah, it means to lift up. So it means either separating or lifting up. These two pirushim are connected to each other. Einam rak maspirim shel harama shel olam b'ininav. Za kesef echadoime le'elokut mitzad ayidei hafrashat adam ela hemgan mitarim et ofen avodah v'aliyah. It's not only telling you that you're separating something to elevate the world to godliness, but rather they are describing the way the elevation happens. Okay, we'll explain it. The word truma, which we say means hafrasha, separating, comes and emphasizes she'ena adam noten et kol ma sheyeshlo. It's coming to tell you that a person doesn't give everything he has. Elu mafrish chelek min nechasav ve marim oto v'noten lo oto l'kodesh baruch hu li lishmi. A person separates a portion of his possessions and he exchanges them and he gives them to Hashem for Hashem and his name. There's a difference between the two types of dwelling of the Shechina. When the Shechina comes from above, like in Matan Torah, it's in a way that it's